Good evening, everyone. I welcome our members of the gallery and I declare the meeting open at 6:01. Firstly, I begin by acknowledging our traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Item 1 is the record of attendance. Apologies this evening are Deputy Mayor Edwards and Councillor Roberts. 1.3 leave of absence previously approved, there are nil. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, and there are two recommendations before you, councillors. For the first one, 2.1, that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Waratah Wynyard Council held on Monday the 17th of March, a copy of which, having been previously circulated to councillors prior to the meeting, be confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Highland.
I'll second that.
And Councillor Bramich, seconded. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Because they need to be identified and agreed to at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. No corrections or amendments. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 2.2, confirmation of minutes of the previous ordinary council meeting, that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Waratah Wynyard Council, which was scheduled for Monday the 14th of April, but rescheduled prior to the start of the meeting due to a lack of a quorum, a copy of which, having previously been circulated to councillors prior to the meeting, be confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Johnson moved.
And I'll second that.
And Councillor Raw seconded that. Any corrections to the minutes are to be identified and agreed upon at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes. Are there any amendments or corrections? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Item 3, councillor and agenda item number. Are there any councillors that have a declaration of interest for this particular meeting? Councillor Johnson, your light is on. Do you have a... Fine. Staff and agenda item. Any staff members with a declaration of interest? No, so we'll move on to item 4. Councillors' announcements and report. Announcements by the Mayor. I have no announcements this evening. 4.2, the Mayor's communications. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, with all of my diary and events that I have undertaken over that particular time. So could I have...
So moved.
Councillor Bramich moved. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Highland seconded. Are there any queries or comments on my diary and communications? Not at this point. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 4.3, reports by delegates. We have not received any reports. 4.4, notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, that you note the following workshops. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Bramich moved. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Courtney seconded. Are there any comments or queries regarding what the workshops entailed? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously.
I see the container refund thing went into Somerset today.
Could we...
Sorry.
We're not to that point in the meeting, thanks.
That's all right. I'll send what I want to say. Let's move on.
When you would like, I think that it would be good if you could make a statement about it a little further on in the meeting for us, please, Councillor Bramich. Okay, thank you for that. I'm sorry if I cut you off. Item 5, public questions and statements. 5.1, we have no public questions received, no questions in writing, public questions without notice, and public statements without notice. And prior to moving on to that item, I need to read a statement from the Council. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with this Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. According to our meeting procedures, there are some rules which we have applied for any questions or statements during the Council meeting. So I would like to just list those for you. You're allowed a maximum of 3 questions and they may be asked per person. Any parts to questions are considered questions. All questions to be asked before a response is provided. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person to ask questions. Once a question is answered, there is to be no debate on that question. Public statements are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person, and there is to be no questions or discussions related to that statement. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. So Mr. Austin, would you like to come forward? And if you click the button down the bottom, you will be able to.
Hello.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Dennis Austin and I'm here tonight to express sincere disappointment about the handling of my development application on my Boat Harbour property currently before the council tonight. The application is retrospective. The works were already done when I purchased the property, and works I was not aware of that they were unauthorised at the time of purchase. Since then I've made every effort to comply with council requirements and to regularise the situation. I have not resisted a single request for information and would have willingly provided further documentation, including a landslip risk assessment, had the request been formally made. Incidentally, our planning consultant was not informed and was totally unaware that the required information was missing from the report. It really was simply a matter of stopping the clock on the development application. Furthermore, I was never formally given the opportunity to respond to these recommendations or to provide the additional information that could have supported a more balanced assessment. In my opinion, this is not how effective planning or engagement should operate as a municipality progresses. I do, however, acknowledge that the council generally do a great job and the municipality is looking superb, and I'm proud to belong to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you for that. We'll move on to item 6, petitions, deputations and presentations. 6.1.1, a request for public toilets, rubbish services and signage at Boat Harbour Store. Councillors, there is a recommendation before you that the council receive and notes the petition requesting the urgent provisions of public toilet and rubbish facilities near the Boat Harbour Store, along with approaching signage on the highway. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Councillor Hyland moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Just briefly, Madam Chair, yeah, we've got all the information there that we need to deal with, and it's not the first one we've had from that area, so we'll deal with it in the appropriate way.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? If there are no further speakers to the motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 7. We have a list of planning authority items, and we're moving into the planning authority at the time of 6:11. Item 7.1, no public questions without notice have been received and no public statements. Item 7.3, dwelling extension, outbuilding shed and 3 water tanks located at 131 Irby Boulevard, Sisters Beach. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, that council, in accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Waratah Wynyard, grants approval for a dwelling extension, outbuilding shed and 3 water tanks at 131 Irby Boulevard, Sisters Beach, subject to the list of conditions. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
As per the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Bramich. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to discuss this motion?
There's not much to add, Madam Chair. It meets all the requirements as far as I'm concerned, and I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion, please? Further speakers for the motion? Councillor Bramich.
All I've got to say is it's quite straightforward to me, and I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Any further speakers? No speakers against the motion. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Sorry, I'll just get my... I think I might have missed one there. 7.3, dwelling extension, outbuilding shed, and that's the one we've just done, isn't it? Okay. 6.4, thank you, our CEO. She's keeping me on my toes. I'm really pleased about that. Dwelling additions and alterations and change of use to visitor accommodation located at 245 Port Road, Boat Harbour Beach. The recommendation before you, Council, is that in accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Waratah Wynyard refuses an application for dwelling alterations and works, respective, and change of use to visitor accommodation at 245 Port Road, Boat Harbour Beach on the following grounds. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
As per the recommendation, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hyland moved. Could I have a seconder for that motion, please?
Yeah, second that.
Councillor Bramich. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak to this motion?
And briefly, Madam Chair, it's pretty clear and it's pretty well spelled out by the planning staff, and we'll just follow due process, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers, please? Anyone wishing to speak against this motion? Any further speakers for the motion? Councillor Bramich.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I can feel for the applicant and that, but it just doesn't meet our planning requirements as it is. So it'll go off to the planning tribunal and they'll make the decision, and hopefully everyone's a winner. Hopefully.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Are there any further speakers for or against this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 6.5. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, that council, in accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Waratah Wynyard, grants approval for a dwelling and 2 water tanks at 7 Azure Vista visa. Boat Harbour Beach subject to the following conditions, and there are a host of conditions there that must be followed. Can I have a mover for that motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move an alternate motion, if I may.
An alternate motion?
Yes.
So Councillor Highland has moved an alternate motion. Is there a seconder?
Well, you want me to
Yeah, I'll
move
second.
it?
I'll second.
I'll need to move it.
You'll move. Okay, can you move? Pardon
Yeah,
me.
I'd-
If you would like to read
Yep.
out your motion.
I'd like to move that this application be refused on planning grounds, and I'd like to indicate that the setbacks as the issue.
Thank you, Councillor
I'll
Highland.
second that.
Councillor Bramich seconded that. Councillor Highland, do you wish to?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's a tricky one, and given that we've had some development on the block, now there's a height restriction, and currently it's 6.6, and we're under the height regulation. But the setbacks are the issue, and generally setbacks in Boat Harbour 2 metres, 5 metres, 7 metres, but these are very tight. They're trying to squeeze this house on this very small block, and the comments are that it fits the area, but my view it doesn't fit in with the aesthetics of the current area. Yeah, so that's all I've got at this stage. I'd be happy for some support on this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Are there any speakers against this alternate motion proposed by Councillor Highland? Any further speakers for the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, thanks, Councillor Highland, for doing this, because it was concerning me. I know it meets our planning scheme, I understand that. But at the end of the day, does someone want to walk out of their house and look at this 6 metre wall so close to the boundary fence? That's what concerns me. And I think this day and age, with a bit of twigging and designing or whatever you got to do to get it so it's a bit better than what it is. I don't know how much ground we got to stand on, but I'll be supporting Councillor Holland with planting grounds with setbacks and that sort of thing. It's only so far from the boundary fence. I don't think it's fair to put it on the people like that. I know it meets our planning scheme, discretionary and that sort of thing, but sometimes I've got to wonder. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Are there any speakers against this motion that has been, this alternate motion put forward or proposed by Councillor Highland? Are there any further speakers for this alternate motion? Councillor Johnson.
I'll speak for it. As I say, driving into Boat Harbour, beautiful Boat Harbour as it is, and you're coming up against this, and this is pretty close to the main road. It is going to be an eyesore and stand out, I think, so it's going to ruin the aesthetics, so to speak. So I am 100% behind Kevin Highland's motion, Councillor Highland's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. If there are no further speakers for or against this alternate motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. I call for a division. Thank you very much. I call for a division on this particular motion. Or could you please raise your hands, those that are in favour of the motion? Councillor Bramich, Councillor Raw, Councillor Highland, Councillor Johnson and myself against. Councillor Courtney. The motion is passed. Apparently we now need to debate this particular motion. So Councillor Highland, if you would like to propose that this be the motion.
Happy to do that. So now we have the motion before us.
Could I have
Yep.
a seconder for that motion, please?
Yep.
Councillor Bramich, Councillor Highland.
So we'll. Yep.
Yes, we are now able to debate
Yep.
this motion.
No, look, it's, well, to me, we've, like our planning department have done a brilliant job at Boat Harbour, particularly with the mansions on the beach side. Anyone that drives into Boat Harbour wouldn't really know that we had 8 or 10 three-storey buildings sitting on the beach. Because it's been that well designed and done, and it's pretty uniform all the way down. And then on the other side of the road, we've had the long-awaited development on the old caravan park side. Now, it has gone through a few changes on the way. There's the holiday shacks have been erected on Port Road on the top side, and then it's been they've changed the titles and different things have changed in that area. And there's a couple of blocks come up for sale. Well, obviously, it's a person's right. He buys a block and they would like to build, obviously, a house of their choice. And then we've got the situation now where we've, if I can use the term, we've got a house virtually with like a pumpkin with a pimple on the top. It's just going to stand out. And I don't think we really want that in Boat Harbour. We just need to keep it pretty low profile. It's a nice, quiet little village, if you like. And that's the reason that I really thought, well, we need to sort of have a look and see if we can't deal with the people and make some changes. And that's why I brought the motion forward. You know, it meets the scheme in regard to the height. Still a 6.6, I think, from memory. And but it's, as Councillor Bramage pointed out, on that boundary, which has the shortest setback, which is 0.9, I think, of a metre. And that's where the high peak of the 6 metre height is. And it'll be like virtually a sheer wall on that side. And it's only, you couldn't even plant trees down the side to sort of camouflage it a bit. But anyway, that's up to them. But no, I've put the motion and I'm quite happy with that, and I can live with that.
Thank you,
Yep.
Councillor Highland. Our CEO has a request, I think.
Councillor, it's just that if you're changing the recommendation of the planners, you've got to give specific reasons. And if you look at the report, there are some specific reasons listed on page 44 and 45, which you might be able to use in part
40,
P1 and P2.
41. And
So the recommendation needs to be worded that the application be refused according to one or more of those reasons.
41.
44.
Oh, 44. Sorry.
There's a table.
Oh, yep. Yep. Hang on. Michael, where are you? No, here we are. P1. O1. Choose to extend.
Councillor, if I may, the conditions in table P2 on page 45 are pretty much what you've described, I think.
Yep. Yep. Siding and drilling must not cause. Yep. So are we happy to include those? Can we?
If
Yep.
you would read them out, please, Councillor
The
Highland.
siding of the dwelling must not cause an unreasonable loss of amenity to the adjoining properties, having regard to the topography of the site, the size, shape and orientation of the site, the setbacks of surrounding buildings, the height, the bulk and form of existing and proposed buildings, the existing buildings and private open space areas on the site, sunlight to private open space and windows of habitable rooms on adjoining properties, and the character of development existing on established properties in the area. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers against this motion? Councillor Courtney.
I'm against the motion because I don't think we should reject the application in its entirety because we disagree over a setback waiver. I think that's a rather large overreaction. If we can amend it so that they don't have to go right back through the process again, a minor amendment, and I'd like to hear from our planners how they feel about the entire application being rejected because of aesthetics that councillors don't agree with.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney, and I'll ask our planning officer if she would like to respond.
Thank you. So I guess the central question is the loss of amenity unreasonable within the context of the surrounding area? In terms of doing amendments to things, there's a very narrow scope council has as a planning authority to alter an application. We can't really change anything that's the substance of the application. With a development, say that this had a very large setback on two sides and we were talking about a setback on one side, we might say, well, we'll give you a reduction slightly less than what you were looking for. But with this one, if you shift it in one way, it's going to have a knock-on effect elsewhere because it's quite centrally located on a small block. So usually in terms of changing the design, that's a larger question. Typically what would happen is if the matter were to proceed to appeal, whether that was an appeal against council's decision either way, then the matter would go through a process of mediation. Council is always open to mediation, and that's where details about design might get worked out. That happened with one that council approved at Boat Harbour on Port Road, where the decision to approve was appealed. There was mediation and the design was slightly changed, and that was agreed between the parties. But council didn't require that design. It was a discussion between the two parties because it's not, I guess, for us to alter the design of something as presented to us. The mechanism to change things is very narrow, and it's usually only in circumstances I've described. We had one in Waratah Crescent last year or the year before where they were seeking quite a close proximity to Waratah Crescent, and we said, well, we're not going to let you go 1 metre from Waratah Crescent. We'll give you a 3 metre reduction, which is still a reduced setback, but not quite as much as they wanted. But that was a bit of a different scenario because there was more room on the block to wiggle things around, and that was also a discussion with the applicants before it went to the council meeting, because we saw the only way for it to comply was to wiggle it around a little bit. And in this instance, the recommendation from the department was approval, but council as the planning authority has the capacity to make a different determination on planning grounds. So in short, to a long answer, sorry, there's limited capacity to really change the design. It's something that happens as part of the mediation process typically.
Thank you for that response. Are there any further speakers for this motion? Speakers against the motion? If not, I put the motion. I'm going to call for a division. Could you please raise your hands, those who are in favour of the motion? Councillor Bramich, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and myself against. Councillor Courtney. Thank you. So that's the end of our planning authority, closed at 6:30. We now get on to item 8, matters raised by councillors. Please note the numbering through... Have I missed something? Yeah, the numbers are wrong. Please note that the numbering under this matters raised by councillors are incorrect. It should be 8.1.1, etc. So I'll go through those in a minute. 8.1, responses to councillor questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. 8.1.1 is councillor Edwards, Sisters Beach speed mitigation measures. You can see that there is an officer's response there. 8.1.2, councillor Highland, Gone Nuts, presentation to councillors. And 8.1.3, councillor Bramich, Foxglove management. 8.1.4, councillor Edwards, access ramp, Boat Harbour Beach. We now come to 8.3, councillor questions without notice. Are there any questions this evening without notice? Councillor Courtney.
2 questions from me. The first one is through you to our engineering manager. The Parks Department, my understanding, has done a foreshore management plan for Sisters Beach. Both myself and Councillor Edwards would be very keen to know when that's going to be made public, because I know that we're looking at doing our planning for down there, and I think that we need to do that in conjunction with the state government, so we need to be aware of what that report says before we go making any plans.
Thanks, through you, Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. We'll make contact with Parks and ask that they release that report simply.
Thank you. Your second question.
Second question without notice tonight, working with vulnerable cards. Local government as a body, as a group, voted to bring in working with vulnerable cards as a requirement to run for council. I've heard a lot of commentary from the state government premier that seems to be that that's going to be obstructed or it's not going to be supported. Just wondering where it's at, whether we could go back to the state government and find out where that's at. If local government have overwhelmingly voted to bring the card in, are we going to be supported by the state government, or are they going to be obstructive?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Courtney, and I think that the question could also be asked of Local Government Association of Tasmania, who advocate on behalf of all councils, so I will make sure that that question is forwarded. Are there any further questions? Councillor Highland.
The footpath works down in behind that new subdivision, bottom end of the airport. They've brought a new track out onto Quiggin Street, and one has connected up with the track down around the river down towards the yacht club. But I suppose my question is, how come we've changed the design of footpaths and we've filled it with crusher dust of all things and not concrete? I'm just a good rain and the top's going to go clean off it, and there's already bike skid marks with tyre marks in the surface, which is not a good safety issue.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Highland. I'll pass that question.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I'll have to take that on notice to have a look at the site.
Thank you, Mr Summers. Any further questions, Councillor Bramich?
Yeah, a follow-up question on that footpath that goes down behind the nursing home and from the new subdivision in the end of Hogg Street. Have had a look at it today. Disappointed that council would do something like that. Skid marks in it that deep with kids' push bikes, which is fair enough. I would do that when I was a kid too. And I'd probably still do it if I could ride a bike. So it's just opened a can of worms, I believe. And the metal, they've got the dirt levelled out to sow grass on. The metal's just going everywhere. I just don't know where we come from with it. But anyhow, we'll get an answer, I guess.
Yeah, for you, Mayor. Similar comments there. I'll take it on notice to go have a look at the site that's been described.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Are there any further questions for this part of the meeting, please? Councillor Johnson.
Just a quick question. Hogg Street, the new subdivision down there, is there any chance of slowing our cars down on that part of the, pretty much a runway as it is, the new subdivision down there coming through Hogg Street and then going into the, I forget what it's called now, the... Aaron Drive? Yeah, is it down that way there. The speed is just atrocious, and cars are just, say, burnouts and wheelies and all that 24/7 just about. So I was just wondering if we could look into whether is there a possibility of slowing them down. I've been been over the mainland recently and built up areas and that, and have seen effective speed humps and slowing the vehicles down. So if we could look at that, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Certainly we could have a look at that. I guess a bit of history for that subdivision itself. I am aware it was contested at Rampat, which was the body prior to Tascat in about 2006. The roundabout on entry to the subdivision was a device intended to control speed, but perhaps that hasn't been as effective as it could be, and some other measures could be put in place. So.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Are there any further questions for this part of the meeting?
Yeah, I got
Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. With the wall that has broken away out near the yacht club, the government's given some money for it. Are we going to repair it, or to? It's been like that for a long time now, and we've done nothing. But I know the Liberal government has committed X amount of dollars to it a long time ago, but probably not nowhere near enough.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. That's an accurate assessment of the state of play. There was, I think, at the last state election, a commitment of in the order of $40,000 that didn't quite cover the reporting required and geotech and structural testing. So there's recently been some additional funding which will cover, call them interim repairs of the wall, so we can do our car park work. But ultimately the reporting points to that wall would need the state to replace it and fund and plan for that to happen at some point in the medium term. So it probably wouldn't warrant any repairs doing till we can replace it then, would it? Through you, Mayor, look, we're in motion on repairs around the car park area, which council has as an asset, and that will do for 10, 15 years or so. But beyond that, it will probably need a full replacement. So.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Are there any further questions? If not, we'll move on to item 9, notice of motion. 9.1, I'm putting forward a motion for the council to pledge support for the Lift the Tone campaign. I need to find out if the council is comfortable with me moving from this motion from the chair. Okay, all right. So I move the motion that council resolves to challenge the normalisation of abuse against elected members and officers and uphold exemplary standards of public and political debate in all it does. And point 2, further resolves to pledge support for the Local Government Association of Tasmania's Lift the Tone campaign. In supporting the pledge, council commits to promoting civility in public debate, refraining from abusive language and behaviour online or in person, and encouraging others to engage respectfully. So I have moved that motion. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'd like to second that motion.
Councillor Raw has seconded that. There is, I suppose I could go through all the details, the background information. Hopefully you have all read it and understood it. Last year the council did introduce dealing with unreasonable customers policy. This really is a carry on from that policy that we initiated. However, it is a statewide campaign, and we really do need to make sure that the public do understand their responsibilities in treating or being respectful of those that have been elected to councils. So,
when you're ready, Mayor, can I ask a couple of questions? Because I don't really understand. But
yes.
Only when you're ready.
Please go right ahead, Councillor.
The Lift campaign, is that an initiative from the Local Government Association?
Yes, it is.
Right. second, haven't you? At this stage, with all due respects to everyone in the room, I can't support it, because we done one here a few meetings ago, and I would have thought that might have been enough, I don't know. But at the end of the day, all due respects to everyone, we all need to toughen up a bit. That's my opinion. We all need to probably toughen up a bit. And what if this policy gets up? What's it going to do? How's it going to stop anything? How's it going to stop someone mouthing off? I can't see how it can. And I know we've got to have policies, but how many do we got to have? That's what worries me. So unless we can do a better job of convincing me or get the LGAT or someone that's come along, and I understand what you told us the other night about threats to people, I understand that, but this will not stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Further comments from the councillors? Councillor Courtney.
I need to word this carefully. I support the idea behind the motion, but I don't think even I could uphold what's required in the motion. So it specifically says that we would uphold exemplary standards of public and political debate. I don't believe that I can do that. I think that exemplary is an extremely high standard, and when we are having political debate online, sometimes having an exemplary standard for ourselves when we're dealing with difficult customers, we need to be able to enter that debate at a level that is understood by the person that you're debating with. So to set an exemplary standard for myself, example, in social media over the last week, I've had a very heated debate with Councillor Trent Aitken of the Burnie Council. I would suggest that neither of our wordings would be considered exemplary, so neither of us would meet this requirement. But I don't feel that anything I said was uncalled for. And Mr. Aitken has said publicly that I've been horrible to him, but I don't feel anything I said was out of line. So to set a standard that I don't feel I can even adhere to in respectful debate, because you need to deal with people at their level sometimes, I think that's a bit much for me. And to be quite honest, I've been treated worse by fellow councillors than I have by members of the public. So this one's not one I personally can support for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Raw.
Well, what I've got to say has probably got a different slant on it to what we've just heard. I think that the majority, or if not all well, probably not all councillors, but the majority of councillors will vote to sign the pledge or support the pledge for Legat, the Lift the Tone pledge. And the pledge is asking us to promote civility in public debate, refrain from abusive language and behaviour online or in person, and encourage others to engage respectfully. So Gary's asking around, well, how do we actually do that when people are, showing disrespectful behaviour? And this is where I would disagree with Councillor Courtney. If we're asking for this from the public, we have to know too that we need to give that back and be able to give that back. How do we give it back? We need to lead by example, and as a council we need to model the highest behaviour standards through our working in teams and how we work in teams. That's how we do it. So you can actually do it. We need to do that through all aspects of our council work. So as such, in signing or supporting the pledge, I'd remind councillors that we must follow the required principles of the pledge in all our council meetings, workshop, events, in all aspects of our council work. And in my job, I dealt with many situations where aggressive behaviour was pushed towards me, and I'd have to disagree with Councillor Courtney that you must lower yourself to that level. I believe that you've got to have impeccable standards. You treat people how you want them to treat you. You must behave in that way. And so I very strongly support that we follow this through and remind councillors that this is a time for us to all look at our behaviour and decide that we're going to give everything that we expect back.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Are there any further speakers, please? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, I'll have a crack at that one. Yeah, look, no, I think I'm a bit like Councillor Raw. I think we've got to, we're placed in a position where we've got to set a really high standard, I think. And at times, and look, I'm happy to admit that I sort of lower myself where I probably shouldn't have been sometimes, but it's the heat of the moment where you get someone from the audience that's a bit hard to deal with, and I, for one, probably won't cop anything from that side of the room. No matter who they are, they've got to respect what we're here for, what we do, and by the same token, we give them a little bit of respect, but when they sort of overstep the line, they've got to be prepared to cop a little bit. And I think where there's a real lack of understanding, and I don't know how we educate people that want to come in and make statements, but they need to understand what the rules are, what the rules and regulations, how government works, because at times they haven't got a clue and they just want to run their race. They want to demand things that they can't have, and when they're told they can't, they sort of turn a little bit nasty. Well, look, and I don't know how we really deal with that. It's something probably we've got to deal with together, try and make it work. But all the years that I've been here, we really haven't done too bad when you have a look at what goes on in a lot of councils, really. We've had the odd cross word, but by God, some of them just go to the extreme. But I'm certainly going to support this, and I think we really all do. And if there's any way that someone can help me out or whatever, I'd be happy to take some advice. That might surprise a few, but we're all there to take a bit of advice now and then. So yeah, I'll support that, I think, at this stage, and see what we can do. But like it's been said, there's quite a few of these things around, and this is probably another one that we've had a go at with meeting procedures and all sorts of things we've tried. So quite happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers?
Did I ask a question?
No. You've already spoken, Councillor Bramage. Any further speakers to the motion? I'm going to call for a division.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
You can ask a question as long as it is a question and not a statement.
Well, I'll try and get at the question. Any main question. Now, I guess Madam Mayor, Madam GM, or CEO, whatever the right wording is, we've seen here tonight, we're playing with people's livelihoods sometimes, and I guess that's where the emotions come in.
And your question is, please, Councillor Bramage.
I'll just ask it. Sorry. No, that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. If there are no further comments, questions, what have you, for this particular motion, I'm going to call for a division. Those in favour of the motion, could you please raise your hands? Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and myself. Those against, Councillor Bramage and Councillor Courtney. The motion has passed. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, and please note again that the numbers are inaccurate. So 10.1 is the quarterly information report for community and engagement. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, that council notes the quarterly information report for community and engagement department. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
Yeah, I'll move that, Mayor.
Councillor Bramich moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Raw. Councillor Bramich, do you have any comments, issues that you wish to raise on this? Okay. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Councillor Raw.
I'd just like to draw people's attention to the new accessibility features that have been put in for the website. Definitely worth having a look at. And the smart access map. I don't know whether people are aware of that, that people that may come into our community with a disability now can look at the map and find out what our town is like for accessibility, which I think is an excellent thing to be able to offer our community. And I just had a clarifying question. When we have a piece of art that is commissioned and is handed over to council, who's responsible for the maintenance of that after it's been passed over?
Thank you,
Okay.
Councillor Raw. I'll pass that over to Mr Catamol.
Through you, Mr Mayor. It's a council responsibility, and the contract we have with the artist specifies how it's to be maintained and for how long, because sometimes a piece of art only lasts for so long.
Yep.
It's a good question though, because the debate around public art and how it's repaired is a challenging one when it gets to that point of where it can't be maintained any further.
Yep.
We do have a contract with an artist, and it's our responsibility.
Yep. Well, I just need to ask you then to have a look at the ceramic beach one, because showing some visitors to our town the other day, I think it already needs some maintenance. It looks like sealant is lifting. So I think somebody needs to have a look at that.
Could you just explain, sorry, which one it was again, sorry?
Well, can I say the artist's name? It's Christiane Goss's big round metre circle. It looks like the sealant that's gone across the top is lifting, and I think that would either be scratched off or already, so it probably needs attention.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Are there any further speakers for this motion? Any speakers against? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 10.2 Annual Plan Progress Report. There is a recommendation that Council notes the 2024-25 Annual Plan Progress Report for the period of 01 July 2024 to the 31st of March 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Johnson moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
Thank you.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to make any comments?
No.
Thank you. Any comments from the council, please? Any further comments, or Councillor Raw?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question about the Big Creek flood mitigation, that they're talking in there about a move or a change in that. Just ask a bit more about that information. And the workforce development plan, I'm just interested in that too.
Mr Summers will...
Through you, Mayor, I'll take the Big Creek item. Look, the council had been looking at design of an upstream detention basin effectively. There were a lot of challenges that involved increased scope and cost as that was looked at. Since then, we've consulted with local residents around the original three options that were explored. We've got feedback from all of them on what those options mean, and at some time in the near future, we'll bring that to a council workshop for discussion, just to look at those three options. So.
Thank you, Mr Summers. Any further questions or comments?
Through you, Mayor, Sally Morwood would be the one to respond on the workforce development plan, so I will, and she's unfortunately ill tonight, so I will make sure that we get an answer for councillors on that.
Thank you for that. Are there any further comments, questions, queries? Okay, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 10.3, the electoral signage policy. The recommendation.
I'd like to amend it. So I'd like to put forward a motion to amend.
Yep. So your amendment, please.
Slight amendment. So I don't think it's fair to make it effective immediately and get all the federal candidates to go and scurry to get their signs in. So if we could make it effective post the current election so that it doesn't affect the ongoing election where the signs are already out, because it seems to me that that would be inappropriate to change it halfway through the game of a federal election. So if I could get a seconder.
Yes. Could I have a seconder for Councillor Courtney's motion? Councillor Hyland?
Yep.
Councillor Hyland seconded. Did you? Sorry, Councillor Hyland, did you second this motion?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just checking. I'm just making sure that I get it right. Councillor Courtney, would you like to speak?
No, I think the motion itself is appropriate. I think, all or none. So if we've got a policy on it, it makes it clear to everybody who's running. I just had a problem with it being effective, given that we've got signs out for the current federal election. That was my only a sort of hesitation in going with the original motion.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Through you, Mayor, that's fine. This obviously would have been in place a lot earlier had we not had to cancel the meeting. So with only 1 week to go, I think that's a reasonable change.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers to the motion? Councillor Bromwich?
Yeah, look, I'm quite happy to support the motion. At the end of the day, we need to do something because for years now it's been a dog's breakfast. There's been signs up where they shouldn't be, and no one's done nothing about it. Someone else put a sign up where it shouldn't be, and someone does something about it. So, well done. It's just been a dog's breakfast, and hopefully this might fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bromwich. As it was an amended motion, there should be no debate. So I'm going. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. It now becomes the motion. So, Councillor Courtney, would you like to open the debate?
Yeah, no, as I've put forward in my justification for the amendment, I just thought it was an unreasonable point to make it immediate, given that we're in the last week of the federal election and people would have to scramble to go and find out whether they're on state land, whether they're on Crown land, whether they're on council land. So I just felt that was inappropriate. But the motion itself I'm very happy to support because I think there needs to be clarity, and if we have a blanket not on council land, everybody knows the rules. So I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further speakers? Any speakers against the amended motion that is now the motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. I did think of one comment to make during this. I did learn that in 2 states in Australia they've banned all core flute signs, which is rather interesting because that seems to be what all our signage is when we go for election. But anyway, it's what it is in other states. Item 10.5, the recommendation that Council notes the Auditor General's report on the financial statements of state entities, Volume 3, Local Government, tabled in Parliament on the 12th of March 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
Seconder.
Councillor Raw. Councillor Court. Oh, have I? Right. I've got any tags. Apparently I've jumped one of the motions, so we'll go back to that one in a moment. So 10.5, we will still go ahead with this one. I apologise for mixing it up. Thank you, Councillor Courtney, you moved. Councillor Raw, you seconded. Is there any discussion around this motion?
Yes.
No further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Okay, please go right ahead, Councillor Rule.
Yeah, in reading the report, just a couple of things that I noticed that I thought were interesting for us. They noted that rural councils had their first combined surplus since COVID. And, you know, that's a great thing that's happened, but it's taken a while to happen. But urban councils' surpluses are consistently better and higher than rural councils. And so I think we need to consider this when we're working on the future of local government work, and how can these skills that urban councils seem to be able to have or use or whatever, how they can be spread across all councils and all people. I think it's an interesting thing for us to focus on when we're doing that work. And the other just thing, I noted that our council's going to do the capital budget process moving to a staged approach, and we're just really keen to see how that works out, and interesting that that's one thing that we've decided to do.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Are there any further comments regarding this report, please? Councillor Hyland?
Yeah, there was just, I don't think Councillor Raw did touch on that, but it was pleasing that Waratah Wynyard was one of 11 rural councils to have a surplus in 23-24, and one of only 6 out of the 29 councils to record a surplus in all of the past 4 years. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. We do deserve the pat on the back. Not just the councillors, all of those that have contributed to that information, in particular Mr. Smith. Thank you. So I put the motion. If there are no further speakers, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. My apologies, we'll go back to 10.4, which is Contract 833. That council awards Contract 833, provision of bridge asset management service to Ozspan. Could I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Bramich.
Seconded.
Seconder. Councillor Courtney. Councillor Bramich, do you wish to discuss this?
No, quite happy with the recommendation, and I guess at the end of the day we've got no choice, and these people are professional, and our bridge have got to be inspected.
Thank you. Any further speakers for that particular motion? 10.4. If there are no further speakers, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. And so we will now go to item 10.6, the financial report for the period ended 31st of March 2025. There is a recommendation that Council notes the financial report for the period ended 31st of March 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, are you wishing to open any debate or make some comments?
No debate. Obviously, I'd like to thank the senior management team for doing such a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Mitch. You do a great job in finance.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further speakers for or against this motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. .7 Senior Management Report. The recommendation is the Council notes the Senior Management Report. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to open any debate or make any comments regarding this report?
No, because my only comment would be petty that I've got a spelling mistake and I'm a bit only retentive, but it's just noting the report. So, yep, no, I'm happy to just note the report.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any further speakers? Anyone who wishes to speak against this particular report? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Sorry, it was carried unanimously. 10.8, minutes of other bodies and committees. 10.8.1, Audit Panel Committee held on the 25th of March 2025, and the recommendation before you, councillors, is that you note the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit Panel Committee meeting held on the 25th of March 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Bramich, could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Bramich, do you wish to make any comments? Are there any comments from the rest of the council, please? No comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 11, matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. The recommendation is that the council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting. Could I have a mover?
So
please?
moved.
Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bramich. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 12. The recommendation is that the council resolves by an absolute majority to go into a closed meeting to consider the following matters at 7:07 p.m.
So moved.
Councillor Courtney moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
And second.
Councillor Johnson. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. So we are now closed to the public. Turn your microphones off.